Okay, in this video, we'll be covering grade 8 mathematics, 8th grade for the STAAR test. And this was a test that was given April of 2021. And we have part 2 today. So in part 2, I am covering problems 15 to 28. And there's already another video, part 1. We'll put a link in the description for part 1, which was 1 through 14. Just a quick review of the reference materials provided. You're given slope-intercept form equation, direct variation, y equals x, the slope of a line. So these are given for you. Also the circumference, 2 pi r, or pi times diameter, that's very useful. Area for triangle, rectangle, parallelogram, trapezoid, and for a circle. And you could be asked for the surface area of a prism or a cylinder. And they could ask for lateral area or total surface area. And then you have your volume formulas. And so whenever you see capital B, that is the area of the base. Not the base, but the area of the base. And that's different than the area of a triangle, which is 1/2 base times height. That's just the base. So small b is just the base. And then you have your Pythagorean theorem, simple interest formula, PRT, that's the interest. And the compound interest is A equals P times 1 plus R to the T power. I think we will see this one today. I think it's problem number 25, where you get to do both of those, simple interest and compound interest. So let's take a look at some of the problems. So the first problem in part 2 is number 15. And number 15 says triangle KLM and triangle PRS are similar right triangles. Which proportion can be used so that the slope of KM is equal to the slope of PS? Okay, so the slope of KM is equal, well, we're going to use something that you may be familiar with. Slope is rise over the run. And so for the first triangle, the rise would be KL over LM. And that would give you the slope for that one, the slope of KM. And for the second one, you're going to have the rise would be PR over RS. And if we look at the answer choices, it looks like answer A is the correct answer. Okay, number 16. The table shows the diagonal lengths of TV screens at a store. So for screen W, you have the square root of 12.25. And so using your calculator, the square root of 12.25, that comes out to be equal to 3.5. And 2 and 1/6, if you use your calculator, 1/6 is going to be 1 divided by 6. It's going to be 1.6 repeating. And 37 divided by the square root of 144. That's going to be 37 divided by 12, which is about 3.08. And 8 divided by 3 is going to be 2.6 repeating. So it looks like we're looking for the smallest diagonal, length in feet. So you need to take a look at the answers closely. And this is 2.16, and that's smaller than the 2.66. So 2.16 corresponds with screen X. So screen X is answer G. So for number 16, the correct answer was G. So all you have to do here to summarize, you have to convert all of these to decimals. The length in feet are converted to decimals using your handy-dandy calculator. And then write the answers down and then start comparing which is the smallest diagonal. So that was for number 16. Okay, so for the next problem, says number 17, a math teacher observed that as the number of hours students studied their multiplication facts increased, the more they studied, the number of errors the students made on their multiplication tests decreased. Which scatter plot could support this teacher's observation? So hours increased and the number of errors decreased. So we're looking at something that's decreasing. If you look at this one here, there's no correlation here at all. So I'm going to rule that one out. And this one goes up and then comes down. That's not really correlated. So this here is a direct correlation, increasing. So this is saying for part A, or answer A, it's saying the number of errors is increasing as the time is increasing. That's not what is stated. They're saying that as the number of hours increase, the number of errors decrease. So it's actually D. Number of errors are decreasing. This is decreasing. So anything going down like that, if the slope is down, that's a decreasing. And the correct answer here was D. Number 18, the diagram shows the height of a cone that holds ice cream. The cone has a volume of 1.5 pi cubic inches, and the height is given as 4.5 inches. Which measurement closest to the radius of the cone in inches? Which measurement is closest to the cone in inches? So we need to look at our formula chart for this. Okay. Okay, so using the formula chart, we know that the volume of a cone is 1/3 the area of the base times its height. And the area of the base is this yellow part. That's a circular base. It's a circle. And that would be pi r squared. So capital B, area of the base, is pi r squared. And so that means that the volume is going to be 1/3 the area of the base, which is pi r squared, times the height. So in this case, we know that the volume was given to be 1.5 pi. And we have 1/3 pi r squared times the height, which is 4.5. Now this 1/3 and this 4.5, I can take 1/3 of 4.5, and that's going to leave me 1.5 pi r squared, and that's equal to the left-hand side, 1.5 pi. So if I divide by 1.5 pi on both sides, they will cancel out. So when they cancel out, r squared is equal to what? 1.5 pi divided by 1.5 pi, that's just 1. So that means that r would be the square root of 1, which is exactly 1. So the answer should be H. So in this problem, you have to use the right formula and then plug in the given information. Now, one other way that you could use this is you could use the formula and use these different radiuses and plug into the formula and say, okay, if the volume is going to be 1/3, and this is a good way to check, 1/3 pi times r squared, if I'm checking this one here, times the height, which is 4.5. And if you multiply this out, you're going to get that the volume is 1.5 pi cubic inches, which is what was given. And so that's one way to check this one. That was for number 18. For number 19, which set of ordered pairs represents y as a function of x? So y is a function of x. Y equals f of x. So if we're going to have a function, the x values cannot be repeated. Okay? If the x values are repeated, then it's not a function. So I'm going to write that down. X values cannot repeat for us to have a function. They cannot repeat. So I'm going to look at the x values on the first one, and I have 0, 2, negative 5.5, negative 5.5, the negative 5.5 is repeated. That is not a function. I'm going to look at answer B. I have 5, 3, negative 9.2, and a positive 9.2. Those are all different. That means that that would represent a function. Y is a function of x. So that is correct. Now, just to make sure, I'm going to look at the other two answers. And you see 9.3, a 7.3, and a 7.3. That x is repeated. The x values are repeated, so that cannot be a function. And then in this last one, 8.1, 9.1, 10.1, 9.1. Notice that the 9.1 here is repeated, so that cannot be a function. So just remember that the x values cannot be repeated, and if they are, it's not a function. So if you have something like 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, and if you were to graph those, here's 1, this is the x-axis, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, this is the y-axis. You would have 1, 1 right here, 1, 2 right there, and 1, 3 right there. They're all lined on top of each other, and if you were to draw maybe a vertical line through here, you would hit all 3 points, and that is not a function. Not a function. So that was for number 19. The given polygon is shown on the coordinate grid and models the shape of a garden in a park. So the given polygon LMN PQR will be dilated with the origin as the center of dilation to create a polygon L prime, M prime, N prime, P prime, Q prime, R prime. So the vertex Q prime will be located at 21,7. So we're going to have 21,7 is Q prime. And what is Q? Well, Q is going to be 6 units to the right and then 2 up. So 6, 2. So this is the vertex right here at Q. So we go 6 units to the right and then 2 up. So 6, 2. So to go from Q to Q prime, I have to multiply by a certain factor. I have to multiply by a factor of 7 over 2 or 21 over 6. By the way, 21 over 6 is the same thing as 7 over 2. So I have to multiply by 7 over 2. Answer F has 2 7s, but answer J has 7 over 2. Which one should it be? It's answer J. We got to multiply by 7 over 2 to go from this, Q, to this. So you got to multiply this 2 times 7 over 2 to get that. And you multiply 6 times 7 over 2 to get that. And that's going to give you all the coordinates in that ratio, 7 to 2. Number 21. The graph of a linear function passes through 2 points that are given. And which equation represents the function? So we need to come up with an equation. So the equations are in slope-intercept form. Y is equal to mx plus b. And m is the slope. And they all have different slopes, negative 1/2, 1/2, negative 1/4, and 1/4. So if we could find out what the slope is, we could come up with which is the right equation. How do you find the slope given 2 points? Well, the slope would be, m would be y2 minus y1 over difference in the x's, x2 minus x1. So let's say the first point is x1, y1. And let's say the second point is x2 and y2. So we're going to subtract y2 minus y1, that would be negative 3/4, minus a negative 1/4. All of that over x2, which is 1, minus a negative 1. And when you have minus a negative, that becomes a plus. We'll put a plus there and a plus there, a plus there and a plus there. So the denominator, 1 plus 1, is going to be 2. And you're going to have negative 3/4 plus 1/4. That's negative 2/4, which is a negative 1/2. So I have a negative 1/2 divided by 2. Negative 1/2 divided by 2 is the same thing as a negative 1/2 times the reciprocal of 2, which is 1/2, and that would be negative 1/4. So I'm looking for a slope of negative 1/4 for this one, for number 21. Do you see a slope of negative 1/4? 21 is C. Y equals negative 1/4 x, that's your slope, minus 1/2. Now you can check by graphing this on your calculator and look at the table of values, and these points should be on that line. That's one way to check. You can also plug in those points into this equation and make sure that it checks out. So there's several ways to check this problem. Number 22 is a question about scientific notation. The area of a piece of land is 4,951,000 square meters. How is this number of square meters written in scientific notation? Okay. Scientific notation is going to have a number between 1 and 9.99. So you can't have 4,951 here. So those are automatically eliminated. 4.951 and 4.951 is correct because that part has to be between 1.00 up to 9.99. And so now they both have the same number, 4.951, but one is times 10 to the 6th power, which is a very large number, and this is a very large number, VLN, very large number, and this would be a very small number. So 4,951 is a very large number. It's more than 1. The answer has to be F. So if you were to expand 4,951 times 10 to the 6th, you would need 6 decimal places from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And F is the correct answer. Now, the other one is a very small number, answer G, 4,951, and you would need a whole bunch of zeros here. You would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 10 to the negative 6. This would be answer G, which is the incorrect answer. The correct answer was F. The dimensions are given for the rectangular prism, and we're looking for the total surface area in square inches. So this is not multiple choice, but we do know that there's a base of 16 by 8 here at the bottom. So the base is 16 by 8. And this side here is 8 by 10. And the top here is the same as the bottom. This one's 16 by 8. There's 2 of those. And then we need the other side, which would be 16 by 10, which would be the height. 16 by 10. So this is 16 by 10. So the front and back is 16 by 10, and we have 2 of those. So times 2. And then the bottom base and the top base is 16 by 8, and we have 2 of those. And then the side, the right side is 8 by 10, and then the back side is 8 by 10, so we have two of those. So using your calculator, you're going to have 16 times 10 is 160 times 2 plus 16 times 8, 128 times 2. 8 times 10 is 80 times 2. So this is going to be 320. 2 times 128 is 256. 2 times 80 is 160. And then when you add those up, 320 plus 256 plus 160, you're going to have 736, which is the answer. So 16 by 8, top and bottom, 8 by 10, the right side and the left side, and then 16 by 10 is the front and the back. There's two of those. Number 24 says, at a restaurant, 600 customers were served during a 10-hour period. Which graph represents the slope for the number of customers that were served per hour? Okay, well, you have 600 customers every 10 hours, so that's 60 customers per hour. So every hour, they're averaging 60 customers per hour. So let's take a look at the best graph. So we're looking for a slope of 60. This one has a slope of 0. This one has a slope of 0. So those do not make any sense. It has to be either H or J. This one says at 1 hour, you have 60 customers. After 2 hours, you have 120. After 3 hours, you have 180. After 4 hours, this one represents 60 every hour, and that represents the proper slope. So the answer was H. Okay, number 25. Ben deposits $1,750 into each of two savings accounts. Account 1 earns 2.75% annual simple interest. Account 2 earns 2.75% interest compounded annually. So they have the same interest rate, but the interest is computed differently because they're different formulas. Ben does not make any additional deposits or withdrawals. Which amount is closest to the difference between the interest Ben will earn in account 1 and the interest Ben will earn in account 2 at the end of 2 years? And this is multiple choice, and you have your answer choices. Now, since the amount of time here is 2 years, and the interest is the same, only that it's computed differently, I don't believe that the difference in the two, we're looking for the difference between the two accounts, what it earns in account 1 and account 2 at the end of 2 years. I don't think the interest will be very much. It'll be a very, very small amount. So teachers, remind your students to use common sense on this test. The STAAR test does have a lot of common sense questions. Now, I will answer this for those that want to use a common sense approach, and then we'll work it out the long way to make sure to confirm and verify that we did it correctly. Okay, so looking at the answers, I'm going to say the answer is $1.32. So if you're in a hurry, you don't have time to do this, the answer is $1.32, and you move on to the next one. However, we want to work this out using the formulas provided in the formula chart. Okay, using the formula chart, I equals PRT, that's simple interest. That's what account 1 will earn. And P is the principal, which is $1,750. R is the interest rate as a decimal. 2.75% is 0.0275. And T is the time in years, and so T is going to be 2. Account 2 earns interest compounded annually, and the amount is equal to P times 1 plus R raised to the T power. So it's calculated a little bit different. Now, when it's compounded annually, the amount is going to be principal plus interest. So you need to be aware that this formula is principal plus the interest. So if you want just the interest, you're going to have to subtract the principal. So let's go ahead and do account 1 using I is equal to P times R, which is 0.0275, times T, which is 2. So if you use your calculator for that, you're going to get $96.25. 96.25. Now for account 2, it's a little bit more involved. We're going to say the amount, which is principal plus interest, is going to be $17.50 for the principal times 1 plus R, 0.0275, raised to the T power, T is 2, and that comes out to, if you use your calculator, multiply this out, you're going to have 1847.57. And remember that we have to subtract the principal amount, which was $17.50, so that we can get the interest. Because remember, the A that's being calculated is principal plus interest, so we have to subtract the $17.50. And when we do that, you're going to get $97.57. Now, this turns out that this is answer C. And this 96.25 was actually answer A. So if you subtract those two, that will give you the difference between the two accounts, which is what they are asking for. So if you subtract 97.57 minus the 96.25, and if you use your calculator, you get exactly 1.32. And that was the correct answer. Now, that is a lot of calculations. Go through this. I think a lot of students will probably say, well, it's not that much of a difference. The only thing is simple interest compounded annually, different calculations, but not a lot of difference for this amount. So $1.32 is the answer. Now, leave in the comments which way you would do this. Are you going to do all the calculations on the test, or are you just going to use a common sense approach? I'm very interested in this. So if you're watching this video and you work through this problem, let me know if you're going to use a common sense approach or use the calculator and calculate everything. Number 26, a linear function is represented on the coordinate graph. And it crosses the x-axis at 6, and it looks like it crosses the y-axis at 5. And then they're going to ask for the y-intercept. What is the y-intercept for this function? I'll give you 5 seconds. Okay, time is up. What did you get for 26? Did you get F? Yes, that might be one of the easiest ones on the test. The y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So if they're looking for y-intercept, where does it cross the y-axis? It crosses at 5. So F equals 5. That was the correct answer. Okay, in this problem you have parallel lines, G and K are parallel lines, and they're intersected by a transversal T, and you have given angles. So this angle here is 61, this is 61, those are congruent. This is 123, this is 123, those are congruent. This angle here is 42, that's 42, those are congruent. So this is 136, so X should be 136. And if we look at the answer choices, X is 180, no. X is 90, no, that would be a right angle. X is 44, no. The value of X is 136 because the label angles in each diagram are congruent. That is the correct answer. The correct answer for 27 was D. Number 28 will be the last one in part 2. So we'll take a pause after this one. The side lengths in yards of a triangle and a square are shown in the diagram. So the perimeter of the triangle is equal to the perimeter of the square. What is the value of x? Okay, so they have equal perimeters, and so the perimeter here is going to be the sum of all three sides. So I'm going to have 2x plus 4x minus 2, and then the base would be 2 times x and 2 times 7. That's 14. So because that 2 has to be multiplied. And that's equal to 2.5x. And there's 4 of those. So I'm going to have 2.5x here, 2.5x here, and the same here, 2.5x. So if I had 2.5x plus 2.5, that gives me 5 plus another 5, that's 10. So what I really have here is I have 4 times 2.5x, which is 10x. Okay, so combining like terms here, I'm going to have this 2x here, and this 4x, and this 2x. I'm going to combine those. 2x plus 4x, that's 6x, plus another 2x, that's 8x. And then I have a minus 2 here, and a plus 14. 14 minus 2 is 12, so I have 12 here. And on the right-hand side, the perimeter of the square was 10x. 4 times 2.5x, that was 10x. So, since I have 8x here and I have 10x on the right-hand side, I'm going to move the 8x to the other side. I can subtract 8x on both sides, and that leaves me 2x. 2 times a number is 12. So, what number times 2 gives you 12? If you divide by 2, that gives you 6. So, x should be 6. The answer for number 28 was definitely H. Now, how do you check this? Well, one way that you can check is you can take the 6 and plug it back in for x. So if x is 6, 2 times 6, this would be 12. And then 4 times 6 is 24. Minus 2, this would be 22. And then 6 plus 7 is 13. 13 times 2 is 26. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add those 3 together. And over here I'm going to have 2.5 times 6. Okay, so let's go ahead and check. So for the triangle, you have 12 plus 22 plus 26. That was 60. And for the square, is 2.5x for each side. 2.5 times 6, that was 15 for each side. And there's 4 of them. 15 times 4, that's 60. So yes, that is one way to check, and it is correct. And this concludes part 2. Now, if you enjoyed watching this, if you learned something, hit the like button. And make sure that you also hit the bell for any updates in case we have, whenever I upload the next part 3, in case I make some more videos like this, then hit the bell for notifications. And leave any questions in the comments. If you have any questions at all, I'll make a special video. If you need more help on slope or area, perimeter, compound interest, problems like that, just let me know, and I'm here to help you out. I appreciate you taking time to watch this, and we'll see you in the next video, part 3.